Hey everyone, welcome back to the Canton Insiders, the Quit podcast series brought to you by Intellectu and CatalyX Blockchain Manager. In this series, we go inside the Canton Network, how it's built, how it works, and how people operated on it and shipping real products on top of it. Today, we are back again into the technical and engineering room. My guest is Farid. He's a technical lead at CatalyX Blockchain Manager at Intellectu. So basically, he's the one of the core architects behind the platform that keeps more than 100 Canton Validators alive and secure. And at the same time, the Canton keeps evolving, and Farid also needs to react to these changes. So pretty complex job and responsibility. And what we are going to cover in today's episode is what the institutional blockchain infrastructure actually looks like, and we will go a little bit inside of it, so how the pieces work together and what can be some engineering trade-offs when you're building on top of institutional blockchains like Canton Network. Farid, welcome to Canton Insiders.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, to get to know you better, what do you do at Intellectu and how your working day looks like as a technical lead at CatalyX Blockchain Manager?
So yeah, I'm the product technical lead for Blockchain Catalyst Manager, which means I oversee the product development day to day. What that means is I do a lot of jumping around. I have a pretty independent development team. So on the development side, I just jump around if there are any issues or anybody stuck with anything. I also coordinate future releases, talking to the architect, quality, talking to the QA. So yeah, in short, a lot of jumping around to make sure every part of this plan is working as we develop for Canton.
Nice. And to make it all works, what is Catalyst Blockchain Manager under the hood? What pieces connect this whole product together?
Right. So Catalyst Blockchain Manager manages the deployment, but also the day-to-day of running a Canton node. So we can split it up into three main pieces. I'll show here a simple diagram to help with my explanation. So let me share my screen. So on the left here, we got the pieces of a standard Canton Validator, which is the main thing we support for Canton. And we can divide CatalyX Blockchain Manager into three basic pieces. We have the operator. So for the more technical people that are watching, and if they ever deployed, for example, a monitoring stack or routing through custom resource definitions and operators in Kubernetes, you'll know these words. But for those who don't, essentially, it's a very Kubernetes native way of managing any deployment you have. Then we have the API, which talks to the participant specifically, but all of the components of a validator, and that provides us an API to do any operation there. So, for example, a lot of our customers have their own pipelines and they manage multiple validators and they want to manage the upload of smart contracts, the creating the users, all of that day-to-day stuff, and we provide an API that talks to the validators and simplifies it a bit. And finally, we have a UI piece that's just a front end. So even if you're not very technical, you can just take a look at how your validator is doing, create users, upload smart contracts, check the parties on Ledger, all of that good stuff. So yeah, those are all of the pieces that are we do to support the Catalyst deployment.
On the diagram looks pretty easy, but I'm sure enough it's much more complex when it comes to actual on-hand work with that.
Yes, I had to take the real diagram and simplify it a bit, a few steps for this presentation, but indeed it's a lot of complexity under the hood, but that's our job to reduce any complexity
Mhm.
we can.
Okay, thank you. And how do you adjust, maybe not on the example of this diagram, but overall, the canton itself? It's evolving and was evolving while you are building the product. So it's new proposals, new rules, billing, new rules for the rewards. How do you handle that technically? And how do you make sure that you address this in the product for the customers?
Yeah, so Canton developed by Digital Asset, is a very fast-moving product, so you have to adapt to that. And indeed, there are parts of it that we don't need to adapt for internal smart contract changes, and we have less adaptation to do. But for any deployment changes, of course, we have to react very fast. So we have to be reactive and proactive. We watch the release notes very carefully and even the GitHub of it. And any change, we work fast to support it.
Thank you. And during your history working with Canton and building CatalyX Blockchain Manager for the Canton, what were the biggest challenges you faced along the way?
So we are in a very fast-paced environment with a lot of changes along the way. So you'll always have to be reactive to that. Alongside that, we have multiple client environments with different requirements. So some of them have very strict requirements and want to be self-hosted, so they want to run the whole thing when we need to provide all the integration points to them and accommodate that environment. Then for the majority, we host everything ourselves. We actually use our own product. Some of our main customers is ourselves, but to adapt to this wide range of different identity providers, different hosting conditions, yeah, that's always been a challenge to provide all of these features, and Catalyst needs to be very flexible to accommodate all of these different environments and requirements.
Got it. And also, CatalyX Blockchain Manager existed for the previous wave of the institutional blockchains like Corda, Hyperledgers, and so on. Just in a few words, how did it affect your work when Canton came in place and how the product evolved or changed?
Yeah, so the history of what I've seen as referred as distributed ledgers, it is very interesting. So in the beginning, for other protocols, for like Corda and Fabric, and of course including Canton, because it has had various iterations over the years, we had more of a private network sort of logic. So we had the Bitcoin and Ethereum, which was the public networks, not for financial institutions, for other people. And then we have the very private networks meant for financial institutions. But with Canton, it's a very interesting and mixed model where we have a network for institutions, but we have a global network for institutions where they're all on the same network and they can talk together. So that's a very different architecture. That's a very different set of considerations, a very different loads on the nodes that we're receiving. So we had to build for that with Catalyst, of course, which is a different world.
Yeah, so it's basically rebuilding half of the product from scratch, yeah, to adjust to Canton.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but the Canton is kind of mature and unique network, so it's from one side logical, from your side, I imagine how how many commits and amount of work you did to make this happen.
Indeed, it is.
Thank you for it for the insights and for the developers and the engineers watching us right now who are willing to join the institutional blockchain space and kind of Canton first environments. What will be your honest advice, or in other words, what should they know before jumping in this space?
Sure. So for blockchain, we can use the example of Demo. It's a very fast-paced environment. It's a new technology, so you're gonna have a lot to learn. So for example, Demo language is a Haskell language. That's a steep learning process. The deployment is complex, very flexible, but very complex. So a lot of reading documentation, a lot of trying things out. And then you are going to have some very hard requirements regarding the fact you're moving real world assets on blockchain. So prepare to have very hard security performance requirements.
Okay, perfect, guys. Yeah, so if you need any more technical advices from Farid, I will link his LinkedIn account. Feel free to message him and ask. And thank you, Farid, for joining me for this quick series. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Just a reminder, this is the first season of the Canton Insiders podcast. We are doing it with our internal team and internal experts. There are a few more episodes left, and from April, we are opening doors to the whole ecosystem, and there will be the second season of the podcast. So stay tuned for that, and thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.